Welcome to the Parenting in the Digital Age podcast. Many parents are concerned that their child might be falling behind. Others are just looking for ways to help their children thrive, not just in the classroom, but socially, and well into their future careers. Each episode, we explore the challenges facing parents in the modern world, from behavior, education, and nutrition to device and gaming addiction. We interview a range of leaders in the area of childhood development to help you successfully navigate parenting in the digital age. Here is your host, Jamie Buttigieg.
Hello parents, and welcome to another episode of Parenting in the Digital Age podcast. Today I'm joined by Kristina Lucia, an artist, creator and author who ignites the imaginations of children and their parents through her handmade animal characters and book series, Curiously Curated Creations. And today we are talking about the importance of parent-child communication and family traditions, two topics that I know many parents would love to hear about and that I'm very passionate about. But before we get into all that, Kristina, welcome to the show. Please share with our listeners in your own words a little bit about what you do and what you're passionate about.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Jamie. Yes, so I am an artist and author and creator. I've been an artist since I was a little girl, and for the longest time, I've been looking for a way that my creativity, my art could be my livelihood, and how can I add value to other parents and people around me that are looking, what are they looking for? What value can I add? And it became clear to me when I did start this path that communication was a big thing. If we can communicate more effectively, we have, for lack of a better word, we have better conversations. We hear each other more clearly. And when we hear each other more clearly, our feelings are recognized. And they're not only recognized, but also acknowledged. So when I started this, that was like a really big focus. And ironically, I actually am from a family that I'm very obsessed with the love languages. And I am from a family that doesn't share my love languages. So it's ironic because touch is a love language of mine. I love through touch. I like to be loved through touch. So the first thing I ever created were the loveys and the stuffed animals that I crochet. And it's ironic because I'm like, well, that's my love language, but also for children, that's their first initial love language as babies, as toddlers, like as we're developing our verbal skills and as we're developing our motor skills. That's the first thing we do. Like we all learn to snuggle first and foremost in different forms. When I realized that I always knew I was going to write a book, that I always knew, but I didn't know what. When I did, after a year into my business, when I realized I was going to write the children's series, the biggest thing I've learned about writing my children's series is that there has to be a mission. And that's over the past several months I've been fine-tuning, because again, I always had that concept of communication, but I've also been able to add that element of humanity. In the sense, when I say humanity, I mean stripping away everything else, like where we're from, our sexual orientations, our religions, our colors, and just focusing on the feelings. At the end of the day, we all work from the same feelings list, and we all can communicate through our words. And yes, communication we all communicate differently. We all have different body language, but at the end of the day, our feelings, regardless of how old or young we are, where we're from, all those other things I mentioned, they all remain the same. And that's really what I'm passionate about, is creating this book series, the characters that go along with them, and through them, setting an example of how we can meet each other halfway, how we can communicate, how we can hear each other, and recognize that the feelings that our children are having are the same feelings that we're having. How can we find a common space where we're able to connect?
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I love how you really started with the end in mind, and this series and this book is so much more than just a children's book, that there's a greater purpose both for parents and kids. So maybe tell our listeners a little bit more about the book and perhaps your inspiration for writing the book.
Yes, so when I started, I had multiple characters, and my friend's little girl is Bella. I decided to name one of them. I actually have the stuck version of Bella with me here right now. This is Bella, the main character. So I originally named her after my friend's little girl, Isabella, in honor of her. And my friend shared a memory with me, and that's what struck me, like, oh, this is one of the stories. Like, and then I realized, okay, there's going to be 15 books in the series. As I started writing, the beauty of naming her Bella. So Bella actually is one of my nicknames. I've been called Bella for years now. It's either Bella or Beautiful. Those are my two common nicknames. And I honestly, based on because of my family background, I struggled with coming out and saying that Bella was me at first, and it felt convenient to say, no, it's my friend's child, which it is, you know, I mean, but as I started writing, I realized I'm writing about my mom and I realized that my friend's little girl, it was now a toddler, she's 2 years old. This little girl actually helped me identify with my inner child, like without even realizing it. This child organically got me there. And I will say, the more I wrote, the more I realized that my main inspiration is coming from a combination of things I'm observing from my friends who are mothers. My sister is a mother, things they're going through, things they're sharing with me, but also my relationship with my mom and I. My mom and I did not have the most perfect relationship. There was a lot of miscommunication. And both when I was a child, and even more so as an adult woman. And that's also another big thing of why that focus on humanity and communication, because when you don't communicate properly from the beginning, it gets worse as you get older. There's not just magical moment like, oh, you're 18 and we can communicate like adults. No, like it actually can snowball. So that was one of the big inspirations as I'm writing these books. As I started writing, I realized my strategy to focus on skills that we all learn and go through. And then in every book, there's a special adult figure, whether it's Bella's mom or her dad, and one of my books is actually going to be my mom's best friend, Sue, who she and my mom knew each other since freshman year of high school. She's one of my dearest friends to this day. She's going to be a character in my books. It's going to teach Bella something. And what happens is Bella feels an anxiety or gets upset, and she turns to that special adult and says, you know, for example, the first book, Bella's going to be going from a crib to a big girl bed. And she says, Mommy, you know, I got scared when I went to my big girl bed. I cried. And her mom turns to her and says, it's okay. Even as an adult woman, I get scared. And she tells Bella how when she and Bella's father moved into the new house that they live in now, I was scared at first. And Bella's like, really? And it's this moment that they relate. And she tells Bella over time, you know, I got used to the house. And then she gives her a lovey. And I actually create lovey versions of each character too. And the lovey is a transitional object for Bella in the story to help her be able to gain the courage to sleep in her big girl bed. And every book is following a similar formula to that, where there is this wave of feelings and there is that moment where the adult is able to calmly say, I feel these feelings too. And this is how I work through it. The other piece I realized my marketing strategist actually suggested to me, and I've been running with it since she mentioned it. I also create a reader's guide for every book. And when I say reader's guide, it's just a gentle guide where I point things out. Where, you know, Bella got a lovey. Is there something that you would like to give your child? Bella's mom shares with her how she felt when she moved into the new house. Is there something that you can share, a similar story you can share with your child for this moment? Again, a gentle guide, because every mom is different. You know, I have so many friends that are moms. I'm an aunt. I'm a godmother. Every family is different. Every child is different. And every time, I was saying to you before the call, my nephew is going to be 2 in a couple of weeks. He's going to be 2 on October 1st. Every time I see him, something's different. Like he's learned something new, or he's, you know, it's different every time. And as an adult, I like have to step back and observe the lay of the land. Like, what's going to happen? What's the groove of this? And that's really what I'm going for as I'm writing, is to create stories that are relatable to every parent and every child. So that way you can bring it into your home and you can formulate what works for you and your family. Because at the end of the day, you know your baby best. You know what your toddler, your first grader, your second grader needs better than anyone else in the world. You're going to know them best.
Yeah, absolutely, Christina. And many children's books specifically are written for children, and you're really creating something special there, because your book is really created for the child and for the parent, and there's this almost practical outcome that can come out of this. It's almost we talk about the fact that there's no parenting manual, but it's almost, this is giving parents tools they can use in a practical sense. So well done.
Thank you.
The next question, I suppose, coming from that, yeah, you're welcome. The next question coming from that is, why is communication between parent and child so vital? And often, as a parent, I'm a parent, I think I'm communicating to my kids, but often I'm communicating at them, not communicating with them, right? And I'm sort of barking orders like, go get the rubbish, or go and have your shower, and go and do this, and why isn't this done? Go do your homework. And there isn't this, sometimes as a parent we have to stop ourselves in order to have this authentic and meaningful exchange. And you said something earlier there which is really interesting. Kids don't get to 18 and then they figure out how to communicate on an adult level. You've almost got to start that process much, much younger. I really believe that. So first of all, why is that communication between parent and child so vital?
I believe it's vital because by communicating effectively, we're allowing our feelings to come out. A lot of times when, for example, a toddler learning to zip a jacket, and they're trying to figure out, and if you're getting anxious at your child doesn't have the mentality yet to step back and say, you know what, mom and dad had a long work day. Maybe they didn't sleep well last night. They're not able to take a step back and not take it personal. And it takes time to develop that. And by being patient with them, or if you know that you don't have the patience to walk through them. I mean, using the zipper things, that's actually one of my books that I'll be writing, is about Bella learning to zipper, snap, and tie shoes. And these are all really hard skills. And even as an adult woman, I forget how hard that is. I forget. And I'm watching my nephew learn to climb stairs right now. And he actually got mad at me because I put him on my lap to roll up his pant leg to him, because he fell back on my legs. My first thought was oh, thank God I was there, because all I need is for my nephew to get hurt in my sister and brother-in-law's house with me watching him. I'll never be able to stay here again. But he got mad at me because I took him my lap to roll up his pant leg. I mean, God forbid Aunt Kristina keep you safe, but it's moments like that. I mean, to go off topic, but it's moments like that where he's a baby. He doesn't have that mentality to say, oh, Aunt Kristina's keeping me safe because I just fell a second ago. He already forgot about it, and he's a boy, so he's told, he's go with the flow, keep it going. So that's really why part of the reason why it's so vital is they're learning how to see things, and they are not at the point where they can process all the other details as adults we should process. Also, by communication being vital, when we communicate properly, we get our feelings out. We get how we're feeling. We're able to express our feelings, and that's a real skill, to be able to express our feelings. The other piece of communicating when we do it well, and I realize everyone communicates differently, and it's something that we're always working on. I know I'm always working on it myself. When we're able to communicate well through one person, we can carry it through others. And it affects all our relationships. It affects our relationships with our brothers and sisters. It affects our relationship with our spouses, our friends, our bosses, etc. So the main thing I really believe is that space to be able to let our feelings out and understand how we're feeling. And another thing I actually learned from Gary Chapman from reading his book, which I admired. If you don't have if you're anxious yourself or you need a break, he actually suggests in his book, and that's I say suggest lightly because I don't want to say he's telling you to do this, but he makes a good point saying you need to step back and you need to take a break. And as an adult woman, I actually do this myself. Like, I actually limit how much screen time I have. I limit, like I mentioned to you before, my family's out of town. Like, I set boundaries as to how many times a year I can visit, how long I can visit, because I realize like it's my responsibility to know my threshold. And as kids, we can't always identify that, or we don't have the luxury of identifying that right away. It can come off as being spoiled. But when we do, we are able to figure out a pattern with our children. And like in my case, my nieces and nephews, it opens up this whole world, and it actually brings this beautiful thing. If you don't mind, I know I've been talking for quite a bit right now, but one perfect example. So I have a godchild, I have a goddaughter, and when I see her, I let her invite me in. And so at her brother's communion, who I refer to as my nephew, we're in her room bedazzling stickers, and I'm just in heaven because it's my goddaughter, and we're both girly girls and loving life. Well, a little while later, when she was outside playing with her friends, I let it be. I was like, obviously I would have loved more one-on-one time with her, but I knew as an adult woman, nope, she needs to play with her cousins. It's okay, Kristina, you had your time with her. But then later on, she came back to me. And she's sitting there like a little lady as I'm talking to one of the neighbors. And it was so adorable. So there is something about respecting their spaces too, and understanding. And I realized, like, from me coming as an aunt and godmother, I realize I come and go, so it's different. And I realize for parents it's different. And that's where we all have to kind of do our own inventory and look at, like, okay, what can I handle? And give it time. And again, it fluctuates. Like I mentioned, my nephew and my godchild, they're growing up so fast. And every time I see them, there's an adjustment. And this is constant go with the flow, like what's it going to be today?
Yeah, and then they certainly grow so fast. Now,
Yes.
our listeners, always know that I try and discuss practical tools and ideas, stuff they can take away and add to their own sort of arsenal of parenting tools. And you've kind of already touched on this already to an extent, but Kristina, what do you think is your top tool or takeaway or tip for parents to improve communication with their child? What is there an activity or an idea that you want to share with parents to help them communicate better with their kids?
Yes. So actually, one of the things I do so I illustrate my books as well as write my books. And when I illustrate, I create storyboards, and my storyboards translate into my coloring books. So I actually have a free gift for your audience. I would love to share. I will send you the link to a downloadable coloring drawing, which I designed. The reason why I'm so gun-ho about coloring is it's meditative and it's quiet. And it's a great way to observe your children and your nieces or your nephews or your grandkids. And also, while you're coloring, we all relax. And it also gives the opportunity for them and you to just start talking organically. And a lot of times I've actually been in workshops where I've talked about when they hear someone, adults and children, vice versa, talking about their fears. A common exercise is to draw them out, to draw out what your fears are or what your joys are. And drawing is a very safe way to do that. It's also a way to observe your child's likes and dislikes. What kind of colors do they use? Maybe they don't like, I use Bella's an elephant. Maybe they don't like elephants. Oh, why don't you like the elephants? Maybe that will bring up a zoo trip you had, or maybe it will bring up a petting zoo moment, or, vice versa. It could bring up so many different things. So coloring to me is a safe way. And also for parents out there that have kids in school, it does promote certain motor skills, them coloring between the lines. And even then, because it's printable, like if you're teaching your kids to use their scissors and whatnot, like that could be, you could morph it into that if you wanted to. So the possibilities are really endless. And that's another beautiful way I feel to communicate with your children is giving them the opportunity. Maybe you lay out a couple different tools on the table, meaning crayons or markers, whatever you're comfortable with, of course, whatever you're comfortable with, and just see what they gravitate towards too. I know I'm a glitter girl, and I get it. Glitter is a mess, so I'm not saying you have to use glitter, but if you're open to it, and you have a way to clean up quickly. I totally get clear is messy. But again, you never know how your kids are going to express themselves, like what colors they're going to reach for, or maybe they'll start talking about that kid at the coloring table at school. You never know. And again, it's safe, it's economically not a costly activity. It's just one of those things that, like, it's timeless, and you can do it too, which is the other beautiful part about it. It's also a fun thing for you to do too.
Yeah, absolutely. It's having that child, understand that they're important. Just spending that time with them makes them feel valued and important and heard. And it's a great opportunity to almost stop them in their tracks and stop them from, put down our devices for a minute and have some authentic conversation. So that's a great tool that parents can use, and it's so simple. Anyone can take that away and use that today. So thank you for sharing that. Now, I did notice something on your website in our pre-show prep, and you've recently started a very unique blog. And I know we haven't talked about this pre-show, but look, it looks like to me a series of diary entries sort of written from the perspective of your book character, Bella the elephant, and her mother. And so what was your inspiration for this blog? Why would it be a great idea for parents to read that blog? But I just thought it was a really unique take on writing a blog. So first of all, well done. Tell us a bit about it.
Oh, thank you so much. Yes. So my friend Nikki, who I mentioned earlier in this recording, she posted an article she had read, and it was about a toddler, and it was through the toddler's eye. I have to learn how to button my coat, but I'm being rushed through it. I'm learning to walk, but I'm being pulled. It was all these things. It was written through the vision of a toddler and their frustrations and them being upset about being told where to go, or being told to do things. It was all about their feelings of frustration, their anxiety, and it was basically what I took away from this post is that the writer was opening the eyes that toddlers need patience, and these are a lot of things we need to learn. And it inspired me to start writing through the eyes of Bella and her mom, and that inspiration came from that take on that article. But it also came, and then it simultaneously also came from my mom and I. I lost my mom in 2019. My mom suffered from anxiety and narcissism. And for viewers listening that have family members that suffer from these illnesses, it's a struggle because it's very difficult to communicate with them. My mom was not good at communicating her feelings, and it took me a long time through both my therapy and even my current healing work to understand she was doing the best with what she had. And I honestly felt these were love letters to my mom and I. There's one particular entry that I wrote about Bella's birthday, and I know my mom. She did everything. She always wanted to do everything because she felt more comfortable in control. That's where she felt safe. And I would see her as an adult woman. I would see how exhausted she is. And there's actually one Christmas picture of us where I must be about 8 years old in it. And, my sister's on one side, my mom, my brother's on another, and I'm like on the floor, and we're all happy in our world. And I personally see my mom's look. Like, I see this glazed look in her eye. I see how tired she is. And where I am right now, like, I want to reach in and give her a big hug. I want to tell her, Mom, like, there is help. Like, you don't have to do it all on your own. And so that really came from moments like that, the inspiration. And something I will say about my mom is I won't speak for my siblings because obviously I want to respect their privacy with their relationship with her mother. But I will say for me, I'm the oldest of three. My mom is so genuinely happy in all my baby photos, in all my toddler photos, because my sister was 3. I was 3 when my sister was born, and I see the joy in my mom's eye, and I see this connection between my parents, and I wanted to acknowledge that. And so in those blogs, like, that's that really came from that, is me understanding as an adult woman, if my mom couldn't give me a hug when I wanted her to, it's because she was overwhelmed. Like, she was trying to be the best she could be. And she really was doing the best with what she had. And at the end of the day, she was a good mom. Like, she really gave it her all. And I'm very grateful for that. And I realized as an adult woman, I need to respect her decisions. And another funny story about my mom and these blogs that I read, that I'm writing with this inspiration. She always wanted to be a teacher. My mom was a longtime teacher and an administrator, and that was our biggest fight, is that I never became a teacher, and I will never. I'm not a classroom person. I'm just not good in boxes. And so I joke that writing this children's series, I feel like that's like her. She's getting the last laugh up there in heaven. She's like, I got my way. And so that's the main inspiration behind that, is I wanted to write it not only for the child, but also for the adult, because of my healing work, I've been around other men and women that have that have been through similar situations as me, and being able to shine light that there is like a meeting each other halfway in the middle. And I do have more of those blogs to post and write, so I'm grateful that you saw that. I'm grateful to hear your reaction to it. It really means a lot to me. Thank you.
You're welcome, Kristina, and it's it was fascinating just to read them from both the child and mother's perspective, and I think it's powerful for other parents to sometimes stop, as you said before, step back and see life through their eyes, and I think it approached them and your interactions and your conversations a whole lot differently as a parent. So very powerful, and thank you for opening up and sharing that part of your life with us.
Thank you.
One interesting question, no, you're welcome. I know we've got a bit of a delay here, don't we?
Yeah.
There it is. Okay, in the digital era, there's this ever-increasing sense of disconnectedness. And even though gaming and social media platforms are trying desperately to convince us that they are creating connection for us, it's my firm view that they're actually degrading our very social fabric. And so I'd like to segue a little and just talk a bit about family traditions.
Yeah.
Why are family traditions important, and maybe how can parents go about creating these traditions?
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. Even though we're obviously on the computer right now talking to each other, in my books, there is a landline phone. I do not put any kind of modern technology in my books for that reason, because eye contact and being face to face. And I completely agree with you. I am a tradition girl. I'm very big on it. Traditions to me, at least from my personal life, and something that will be happening in books that I write about Bello. There actually is one that touches upon like a Christmas tradition, because I'm Catholic, so I do Christmas in some of my books lightly. It brings us together in an organic way, and it also carries on the memories of those who have left us and those that are coming into our lives. We're talking before, we both love Italy, and the reason why I'm a Lucia is I'm from Italian descent. I'm from named after my grandma Lucy. And my grandma's been gone for a long time now, and we all miss her dearly. Obviously, I mentioned my mom's gone. We miss her. For us and our family, like, I'm a big cooker. I'm a big baker. Through the traditions of cooking and baking, it carries on those stories. It carries on those stories of a time that my mom put the oil on the stove and then went downstairs and then forgot about it and came up and it was all flames. It brings up the cookies that my grandma baked. Now my mom baked. Now I'm baking. It's this thread. It's this beautiful thread. And there is something about creating traditions that don't involve technology, because it forces us to share stories and to talk to each other. And it's interesting to hear what people remember. And one beautiful thing, and I'm so grateful that my mom, like me, is old school, because at the end of the day, technology is great, but there's something about someone's handwriting that is so magical. And when the pandemic hit, I sat down and scrapbook like a crazy woman. I love to scrapbook. It's one of my personal, like, it is a personal hobby of mine. I have all these cards in my scrapbooks from my grandma and my mom. And like them, I also write in cursive. And there's something so tangible and so beautiful. And my sister actually organically carried on this tradition without me even mentioning it. Because this past year on my birthday, she sent me a card from my nephew and it had scribbles in it. And she wrote "Scribbles from Caleb." And my heart melted. It was the best card I've ever gotten. Like I just fell in love with that. So I feel traditions bring us together. They unite us in a way, and they also give us an opportunity when we're talking about earlier about communication. It gives us a point of relatability. It gives us a point to express feelings. And I'm a big fan of Brene Brown, and I heard Brene Brown, a clip of her saying that joy is one of our hardest feelings to own and experience. And traditions are, talking about traditions, experiencing traditions, they really overtake those feelings of fear and anxiety, and they allow the joy to radiate. And there's something beautiful about that. And and another big thing we do in our family too is we make our own sauce, or I should say gravy, tomato sauce. And my nephew was helping my sister, and I did it for my reels, my Instagram reels. And there's something beautiful about that. And I know my mom is really happy. And I swear every time I make the Italian Christmas cookies, like there are certain extracts I smell, and I swear my mom and grandma are in the room with me. And I know my nephew is going to have a different reaction. And when I marry and have kids, they're going to have a different reaction. But at least I can share those stories with them. And at least I can plant that seed. When they smell those smells, they think of me, or they think of those moments of us. And there's something beautiful about those traditions. And we all have different ones, which is the best part about it. We're all unique. We're all going to have different things we do. And to be able to share that with others is really great.
Yeah, absolutely. That shared sense of identity, and that creating memories. There's something special about creating traditions, and I like the analog version of your books rather than this digital version. And it's so fascinating to hear you've got a landline. Most kids won't know what a landline is. We've got a couple of traditions in our household, almost weekly, but whenever we're because as kids grow up, we've got some kids that live away and some kids that live with us from time to time, and I like to barbecue. So for me, I'm not Italian. I've got a Maltese background, but food is important in European households. It's something that brings everyone together, and so often we'll sit around the barbecue or sit around the kitchen eating a nice meal. And I feel proud as the father of the home, and having created something nice that everyone's enjoying and smiling and sharing their experiences over. So that always makes me happy, and I can see that it makes my family happy. And board games, we actually still have board game nights, and it's one of those things that it's that analog thing. It's not digital. We're not in front of a screen. Mm-hmm. And at first, when we started this tradition, our kids were sort of early teens, and we sort of had to drag them to the table to play these board games because they were so absorbed in this sort of stuff. And now they come over and they're literally bringing board games. They're like, okay, I found this, or we bought a new board game, or something like that. So, we can see that they value these traditions, and hopefully they carry them on through their own life. But very important and a wonderful discussion. Now, before we conclude our podcast, I've got a question that we like to ask all of our guests. It's a little fun one. And that is, if you could, if you had a time machine and you could go back in time and give your 10-year-old self one piece of advice, what would that advice be, Kristina?
Oh, amazing. Actually, do you mind if I say something really quickly before I answer your question? Because it's something really beautiful that people brought up to me. When you talked about barbecuing and everyone eating your barbecue. So I made the raviolis at Christmas this past year, and I've been doing it for years, don't get me wrong, but that was like one of the times I did it in my mom's kitchen. I did it for the family. And then this year, I just saw my nephew a few weeks ago. He ate a cookie that I made. Like, I had it for myself. Like, I pulled out one of my cookies and he ate it. But when you said about the barbecue, it brought, because I feel like I feel like we're both having the same moment there. My friend told me, when you cook with love, everything tastes good and people are eating your love. And so when I sat down exhausted from making raviolis from scratch for everybody and everyone's eating, my friend Sue said, no, they're eating your love. And that's what I heard when you said about the barbecue. And when my nephew came up to me and is eating the cookie that I baked, he's eating love. And so I just wanted to share that because I really, that's just so beautiful. I don't know your family, but I just envision the barbecue and the aprons and the food and the laughter. And I just imagine all this love being consumed and radiating. And so I just wanted to share that, like that piece, because I know someone told me that and I was like, oh, wow. Like it just was one of those revolutionary moments. So I wanted to share that really fast before I answer your question. I didn't mean to segue.
No, thank you. It's wonderful, and it does create many shared memories. Go ahead, out there, get straight into the question. Go for gold.
Oh yes, and to answer your question, because I do love that question, I would go back to my 10-year-old self and encourage her to believe in her dreams, which thank God I did. And I say that because 10 was actually a really special age for me, because I was 10 when I saw New York for the first time and declared that I would live here. And I've been here for over 20 plus years. I moved out at 18 and went straight to New York. Also, 10 years old and I'd always already been a Walt Disney kid for a very long time. He's one of my inspirations. I read his biography cover to cover when I was 10 years old. And I remember reading it, and I'd always been a fan of his work. I already had been saying I want to be a Disney artist for years at that point. But there was something magic about reading his biography. Like and I wasn't a reader at that time. My mom was always scolding me for not reading more. And now I'm always reading. Like on my plane back from Italy, the guy next to me is like, of course you're a writer. You're always reading. And it's true. My nose was buried and their eyes are watching God. I read it years ago and I got to reread it recently. It's such an amazing book. And that was one of 3 books I finished on that trip. So I will say a 10 to encourage her to keep going as she's going. Believe in your dreams and shoot for the moon, because you're always going to land somewhere among the stars.
Yeah, that's wonderful advice. Great advice, Kristina. And but I should ask too, before we conclude, where can our listeners find you online? How can they connect with you, find this blog, read your books, all that sort of stuff? What is the best way our listeners can find you?
I would say my website is the best, and I will give you that for the show notes. It's www.cccokl.com. I have freebies on my website, downloadable coloring drawings, and I have stuff for the fall and the holiday season coming up as well. I do have my coloring books available as PDF printouts. I am very excited to share with you that my first book will be coming in spring 2023. I decided, based on how I'm building my business, self-publishing is the best route for me. So now I'm working on finding the right people, which I will be making a decision very, very soon. So that way I'm on track. But yes, my website is best. And I do have an email list where I share these freebies directly with you, and I share links to new blogs and all of that good stuff. And yeah, I'm super excited for the first book to come out. I'm so excited about that. So I will be announcing that release date as soon as I can, but definitely spring 2023. I'm gung-ho. I'm in it.
Well, that's wonderful and exciting, Kristina. Thank you so much for your generosity, your sharing, your stories, your wisdom. I know parents will get a lot out of today's podcast. I know I got a lot out of today's podcast. I really enjoyed the time we spent together. Hopefully we cross paths again soon. But again, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me, Jamie. Really appreciate it.
You're so welcome. Cheers. Bye for now.
Bye.
If you enjoyed the show, please connect with Jamie on LinkedIn or Instagram. You'll find links in the podcast description. Parenting in the Digital Age is sponsored by Skill Samurai, coding and STEM academy for kids. Skill Samurai offers after-school coding classes and holiday programs to help kids thrive academically and socially while preparing them for the careers of the future. Visit skillsamurai.com.au.